It was raining heavily that evening when Mark drove home from work, exhausted and annoyed from a long day. As he turned onto his street, the headlights of his car caught something. No, someone huddled by the roadside. A young girl, probably in her teens, sat curled up near a gutter, hugging herself tightly. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, and her hair tangled. She looked weak, like she hadn't eaten in days. Mark slowed down. He could have just kept going. Most people would, but something made him stop. He rolled down his window. "Hello," he said. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up slowly, blinking like she couldn't believe someone was talking to her. She tried to speak, but her lips trembled. "Where do you live and why are you out here alone?" he asked gently, but the girl didn't reply. "Do you need help?" he asked again. This time she nodded, just once. Mark opened the passenger door. "Come in. I can't leave you out here alone." The girl hesitated, then slowly stood and climbed into the car. She smelled of the street, damp old clothes and dust. Mark didn't say anything. He just drove. When they arrived at his house, his wife, Sandra, was already waiting at the door, wondering why he was late. As soon as she saw the girl, her face changed. "Who is she?" she asked sharply. "She was on the road, freezing. She has no place to stay," Mark explained. "She'll sleep here tonight, on the couch." Sandra's eyes widened. "Are you out of your mind? Bringing a stranger into our home? What if she's dangerous? A thief? Or worse?" "She's just a girl, Sandra. She looks like she's been through hell. I couldn't leave her." "I don't like this, Mark," Sandra said, crossing her arms. "Just for tonight," he insisted. They argued for almost 30 minutes. Voices were raised, but in the end, Sandra reluctantly agreed. The girl didn't say much. She only mumbled her name. Mira. No last name. No details. No explanation of how she ended up on the street. That night, Mark gave her a blanket and a pillow. Sandra refused to talk to him. She locked herself in the bedroom, while Mark stayed in the living room, watching over Mira, who had already fallen asleep, like someone who hadn't rested in weeks. By morning, the house was quiet. Mark made a simple breakfast and left some on the table for Mira. He called out to her, "Come, let me drop you at the back. Maybe someone there can help." She followed him silently. On the way, he handed her a few thousand naira. "It's not much, but maybe it will help you get back home." She looked at the money, her eyes whirling with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "You are so kind." She leaned forward suddenly. "Can I hug you? Just to say thank you." Mark hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." The moment their bodies touched, it was like a spark went off in his head, but not in a good way. Something strange filled his heart, a heavy cloud, dark and thick. A coldness rolled through his chest. Mira's hug was brief, but when she let go, Mark wasn't the same. As he drove back home, Mark's mind was elsewhere. By the time he stepped through the front door, his entire body was burning with irritation. Sandra greeted him at the door. "You came back early." "Just leave me alone," he snapped, walking past her. She was shocked. "What did I do?" I said, leave me alone. From that day, Mark changed drastically. He no longer ate Sandra's food. He barely looked at her. At night, he slept on the couch or stayed out late. The man who once adored his wife now treated her like a stranger. She tried to talk to him, but every conversation ended in a fight. And then it got worse. He started yelling at her in front of the neighbors. He pushed her one evening when she tried to touch his arm. Another day, he slapped her because she asked for housekeeping money. Sandra cried often, alone in the bedroom. She called his family. She called her own family. But no one could understand what was happening. And then, one night, Mark came home with Mira. But she was no longer the dirty girl from the streets. Her hair was straightened, her makeup perfect, and she wore a designer dress that hugged her curves. Sandra stared, confused. What's she doing here? Mark smiled in a way she had never seen before. Meet Mira, the new lady of the house. Sandra blinked. What? She's moving in. From now on, you stay in the guest room. Sandra laughed in disbelief, thinking it was a sick joke. You can't be serious. I am. You've been nothing but a burden lately. I want a divorce. Sandra gasped. Mark, what are you saying? You want to leave your wife for a girl you just met? I've known her for months, Mark said coldly. And she's everything you are not. Sandra collapsed on the floor, weeping. First, you brought a stranger into our home. And now, this? Their families were called in for a meeting. Chairs were arranged. Elders were seated. Tension was thick in the air. Everyone tried to talk to Mark, to beg him to reconsider, but he wouldn't budge. I don't love Sandra anymore, he said firmly. I want to marry Mira. His parents were stunned. His mother cried, What happened to you, my son? This isn't you. But Mark was unmoved. That was when Mark's elder sister suggested bringing a pastor, a spiritual man, someone highly respected. The pastor arrived the next morning. Mira didn't want to let him in. She tried to smile politely and pretend she had somewhere to go. But the pastor insisted. As soon as he stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. He looked directly at Mira. Who are you? Mira's expression twitched. I don't know what you mean. You were not brought here by love. You were sent. Suddenly, Mira screamed and clutched her head. No, no. Mark stood to shield her. Pastor, please, stop. You are scaring her. The pastor prayed harder. He prayed louder, speaking in tongues and pouring anointing oil. Then Mira fell to the ground, convulsing. Everyone stepped back in fear. Her eyes turned red. She began to speak in a strange voice. Yes, I went to a native doctor, she cried. He gave me a charm, a love charm. He said the first man who helped me. If I hug him, he would fall in love with me forever. People gasped. Are you surprised? Yes, I needed a man that would take care of me and my poor mother, she shrieked. And then I met Mark. He was too good, too kind. I knew he would help me. And so I used him. Mark stood frozen, like someone waking up from a bad dream. Mira began to laugh, a horrible, wicked laugh. Then, suddenly, she tore her clothes and began running outside, screaming at invincible people. They are coming! They are coming! She ran into the street. People tried to stop her. She scratched and beat at them. Her hair stood on end. Her eyes were wide and wild. She had gone mad. Mark dropped to his knees, trembling. Oh my God, what have I done? Sandra, still in tears, didn't move. Her heart was shattered. The pastor placed his hand on Mark's head. Let the chains be broken. Let the scales fall from his eyes. Mark cried like a baby. I was blind. I hated Sandra without a reason. I just couldn't control it. That night, he begged Sandra for forgiveness. It took time though, because she was deeply hurt. But then, she saw his sincerity and how broken he was. Mark cut off all ties with Mira, who was later taken to a psychiatric hospital. Weeks passed. Sandra and Mark attended marriage counseling. They prayed together. Slowly, she began to see the man she once loved returning. But she never forgot. She never forgot how a kind act turned into her worst nightmare. And Mark, he learned never to ignore his wife's wisdom and never again to bring a stranger into their home. Because sometimes not everyone who needs help is innocent. This story teaches us that though being kind is good, we should be careful who we show kindness to. Some people are actually agents of destruction, seeking whom to destroy. If you must help someone in need, by all means, do so without any point of contact. Now, tell me what you learned from this story in the comments section. I promise I'll respond to each one. Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on the next story. Thank you and God bless you.